The Valkyrie Empire had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. No one remembered a time before their power. Their ships were made of living crystal that could heal itself. Their weapons could burn entire continents. Their word was law, and every species in the galaxy knew better than to refuse them. When their scout ships found Earth, they thought it would be easy. Just another primitive world. Just another species to add to their collection of servants. Ambassador Kethfall was chosen to deliver the message. He was tall, nearly 8 feet, with shimmering scales that changed color when he moved. He had 4 arms and eyes that glowed like dying stars. He had done this 100 times before. Fly down to a new world. Tell them what the Valkyrie wanted. Watch them beg and grovel and surrender. His ship landed in front of the United Nations building in New York City. Thousands of humans gathered to watch. News cameras from every country broadcast the moment to billions of people around the world. Kethfall stepped out and looked at the humans with something like amusement. They were so small, so soft. They had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons at all. How had they even survived on their own planet? He walked into the great assembly hall where the leaders of Earth waited. They sat in their seats, watching him with expressions he could not read. Some looked scared. Some looked angry. Some looked curious. "People of Earth," Kethfall announced, his voice filling the room without any need for a microphone. "I am Ambassador Kethfall of the Valkyrie Empire. I bring you a gift. The gift of purpose." He paused, expecting gasps of wonder. The humans just stared at him. "Your world is now part of the Valkyrie Empire. You will provide us with resources. Your minerals, your water, your labor. In return, we will allow you to continue existing. This is generous. Most species are not given such a choice." At the back of the room, Captain Danny Cole stood with his arms crossed. He was a pilot in the United States Space Force, one of the few humans who had actually been to orbit. He was not tall or particularly strong. He had brown hair going gray at the temples and tired eyes that had seen too much. Next to him stood Lieutenant Maria Santos, younger and fiercer, her dark hair pulled back tight. "Is he serious?" Maria whispered. "Very serious," Danny replied. "And very stupid." Secretary General Antonio Reyes, a calm man with white hair and a gentle face, stood to address the alien. "Ambassador, we appreciate you coming all this way, but I'm afraid we must decline your offer." The silence that followed was heavy. Kethfall's scales flickered with confusion. "Decline? I do not think you understand. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification." "We understand perfectly," Reyes said. "And we decline." "You cannot decline. We just did." For the first time in his long career, Kethfall did not know what to say. This had never happened before. Not once in 12,000 years. Species begged. Species bargained. Species surrendered. They did not simply say no. "You have 72 of your hours to reconsider," Kethfall finally said, his voice cold. "After that time, we will demonstrate why no species has ever refused the Valkyrie twice." He turned and walked out. His ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky. The moment he was gone, the assembly hall erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for calm. A few suggested trying to negotiate better terms. Admiral Patricia Dunn pushed through the crowd to reach Secretary General Reyes. She was 60 years old, with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. She had commanded naval fleets before being promoted to oversee Earth's small space defense program. "Sir, we need to talk, privately." In a secure room beneath the building, Admiral Dunn laid out what they knew. Holographic images floated in the air, showing Valkyrie ships and weapons. Their fleet has approximately 300 vessels in this region of space. Each one is more advanced than anything we have. Better shields, better weapons, faster engines. So we cannot win, Reyes said quietly. I didn't say that. Danny Cole stepped forward. He had been invited because of his experience in space, but also because Admiral Dunn trusted his judgment. Permission to speak freely, sir? Reyes nodded. They've ruled for 12,000 years through fear, Danny said. They show up, make threats, and everyone surrenders. They've never actually had to fight a real war. Not in living memory. They've forgotten what it means to face an enemy that won't give up. And you think we're that enemy? Danny smiled, but there was no humor in it. Sir, humanity has been at war since before we could write. We fought ice ages. We fought plagues. We fought animals that wanted to eat us and plants that wanted to poison us. We fought each other for land, for resources, for ideas. We invented the atomic bomb before we invented the internet. Every single person on this planet is descended from survivors. From fighters. He pointed at the holographic Valkyrie ships. They think we're primitives because we haven't spread to other stars yet. But we've been preparing for war our entire existence as a species. We just didn't know what we were preparing for. Maria Santos nodded. They've never met anything like us. They don't know what we're capable of. Reyes looked at them both for a long moment. Then he turned to Admiral Dunn. What do you recommend? We have 72 hours, she said. That's enough time to evacuate our major cities. Move critical infrastructure underground. Position our nuclear arsenals. Prepare our militaries. She paused. It won't be pretty. We'll lose people. Maybe millions. But we can hurt them. We can hurt them badly. And then we keep hurting them until they decide we're not worth the trouble. Reyes closed his eyes. The weight of the decision pressed down on him. Billions of lives hung in the balance. If they fought, many would die. If they surrendered, humanity would become slaves forever. He thought about his grandchildren, about the world they would inherit. Do it, he said. Prepare for war. Across the planet, the word went out. Not through official channels, but through something deeper. A feeling that passed from person to person. A recognition that this moment would define humanity's future. In New York, people packed their belongings and headed for the tunnels. In Tokyo, factories began producing weapons instead of cars. In London, scientists worked without sleep on new technologies. In Moscow, generals dusted off plans that had been written for a different kind of enemy. Danny Cole stood on a rooftop and watched the evacuation begin. Maria joined him, her face hard with determination. Think we can actually win? She asked. I don't know, Danny admitted. But I know we won't go quietly. Whatever happens next, they're going to remember us. Above them, hidden among the stars, the Valkyrie fleet waited. They had no idea what was coming. 72 hours passed like a heartbeat. Across Earth, 8 billion people held their breath and waited. The Valkyrie fleet emerged from behind the moon exactly on schedule. 300 ships, each one beautiful and terrible. They moved through space like a school of predatory fish, their crystal hulls catching the sunlight and scattering it into rainbows. Fleet Commander Vernash stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was older than Kethvil, more experienced and far less patient. He had personally overseen the subjugation of 17 worlds. This would be 18. Any transmissions from the planet? He asked. Nothing, Commander. Complete silence. Vernash found this strange. By now, most species would be flooding the communication channels with pleas for mercy, offers of unconditional surrender, promises of eternal loyalty. Perhaps their communication systems are primitive, his tactical officer suggested. They may not know how to contact us, Perhaps. Vernash did not believe it, but he pushed the thought aside. Target their largest population center, the one called New York. Begin the demonstration. The lead battlecruiser moved into position. Deep within its crystal structure, massive amounts of energy gathered and focused. The plasma lance was a weapon of terrifying elegance. It could burn through any material known to science. One shot would turn a city into a crater of molten glass. The weapon fired. The beam of superheated plasma screamed across the void and struck the planet's surface. It hit empty ground. Vernash blinked at his tactical display. What happened? Did we miss? Negative, Commander. Direct hit on target coordinates. Then where's the city? The tactical officer ran the scans again, then looked up with an expression of pure confusion. The city is gone, not destroyed. Gone. The buildings are still there, but they appear to be empty. Preliminary scans show the humans have moved underground. Underground? 8 million beings? In 72 hours? That appears to be correct, Commander. Vernash felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Doubt. Before he could process this information, alarms began screaming across every ship in the fleet. Commander. Incoming projectiles. Multiple vectors. On the tactical display, thousands of red dots appeared from behind Earth's moon. They were small, primitive, and moving very fast. Missiles, the tactical officer reported, his voice tight. Kinetic weapons. Thousands of them. Vernash almost laughed. Kinetic weapons? Against our shields? Let them come. They cannot hurt us. The first wave of missiles struck the fleet. The shields held easily, absorbing the impacts without any strain. You see? Vernash said. Primitive. Then the second wave hit, and the third, and the fourth. Wave after wave of missiles slammed into the Velkari shields. Each individual impact was meaningless. But the humans were not trying to break through with any single strike. They were trying to wear the shields down through pure, relentless pressure. Shield generators are heating up, an engineer reported. They're regenerating, but the humans are not giving us time to recover. How is that possible? Do they have unlimited missiles? Danny Cole, watching from the bridge of the hastily converted cargo ship Defiance, allowed himself a small smile. He was in command of Earth's response fleet, which was really just a collection of anything that could fly and carry weapons. Former space stations, mining vessels, research ships, all of them strapped with as many missiles and kinetic projectiles as they could carry. Keep the pressure on, he ordered through the fleet-wide channel. They're not used to attrition warfare. They're used to winning fast. Don't let them recover. Maria Santos, serving as his first officer, monitored the tactical data. Their shields are weakening on the outer ships. If we concentrate fire, do it. All ships, focus on Sector 7. Everything we have. The human fleet was tiny compared to the Velkari Armada, but what they lacked in technology, they made up for in sheer stubborn fury. Missiles launched in endless streams. Kinetic projectiles fired from railguns that human engineers had built in garages and factories around the world. On the Eternal Dominion, Vernash watched one of his cruisers finally succumb. Its shields collapsed under the constant bombardment, and a wave of missiles tore through its hull. The ship broke apart in a silent explosion. Impossible, Vernash whispered. Another cruiser fell. Then a third. Commander, we need to retreat and reassess, his tactical officer urged. This is not going according to plan. We do not retreat from primitives. Commander, with respect, these primitives just destroyed 3 of our warships with rocks and explosives. They have no energy weapons, no shields, no faster-than-light capability. And they are winning. That last word hung in the air like a curse. The battle continued for 16 days. 16 days of constant combat. The humans never stopped attacking. When their ships ran out of missiles, they rammed them into Volcari vessels. When pilots were injured, they kept fighting until they physically could not continue. When one ship was destroyed, 2 more took its place. Maria Santos earned a special reputation during the fighting. On the 9th day, her ship was critically damaged in a direct hit. Instead of retreating, she aimed her crippled vessel directly at the engine section of a Volcari battleship. At the last possible moment, she ejected and watched her ship tear through the enemy hull like a bullet. She was rescued by a passing human fighter. By the next morning, she was back in combat, commanding a new ship. The Volcari had never seen anything like it. They were warriors, yes, but they were also rational. When a battle was lost, they retreated. When survival was threatened, they surrendered. These were sensible behaviors. Logical behaviors. The humans operated by different rules entirely. They fought when they should have fled. They attacked when they should have defended. They sacrificed themselves in ways that made no tactical sense unless you understood something the Volcari did not. Humans did not fight to win. They fought to make their enemies lose. There was a difference. On the 16th day, Vernash finally ordered the retreat. He had lost 47 ships, nearly a sixth of his fleet, destroyed by a species that had never even left their own planet before dawn, as his remaining ships limped toward the nearest Volcari outpost. He sent a message to his emperor. "Your Majesty, I must report a setback. The humans refused to surrender. They refused to accept superior force. They refused to behave rationally. I have lost 47 ships and achieved nothing of strategic value. I recommend we reconsider our approach to this species." The response came quickly, and it was not what Vernash had hoped. "You have shamed the Empire. Return home and explain yourself. A proper fleet will be assembled to finish what you started." Back on Earth, the survivors gathered to count their losses. 3 cities had been destroyed before the Volcari stopped targeting population centers. Millions were dead. The orbital infrastructure was in ruins. Most of the defense fleet was destroyed or damaged beyond repair. And yet, humanity celebrated. Danny Cole stood in front of a crowd of exhausted soldiers, engineers, and civilians. His uniform was torn. His face was covered in dirt and dried blood. He had not slept in 3 days. "They came here thinking we were easy prey," he said, his voice hoarse but strong. "They came here to make us slaves. They came here expecting us to beg." He paused, looking at the faces before him. Men and women of every nation, every background, every belief. United for the first time in human history. They learned something today. Something important. Humanity does not beg. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity fights. And we will keep fighting until the last one of us draws breath. The cheers that followed could be heard for miles. In the ruins of the world, a new resolve was born. The Volcari would return. Everyone knew it. They would come back with more ships, more weapons, more determination, and humanity would be ready. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. For the first time in 12,000 years, someone had drawn blood from the Volcari Empire. Someone had said no and made it stick. On 100 worlds, oppressed species whispered to each other. "Did you hear?" A primitive species from a small planet. They fought the Volcari and won. Well, not won exactly, but survived. Made them retreat. Killed dozens of their ships. The whispers grew into conversations. The conversations grew into hope. On the Volcari homeworld, Emperor Ketharin received the news in his throne room. The chamber was enormous, carved from a single piece of purple crystal that had taken 300 years to grow. Around him stood his advisors, generals, and priests, all waiting to see how their god emperor would react. Vernash knelt before the throne, his scales pale with fear. 47 ships, the Emperor said softly. To primitives. Your Majesty, I take full responsibility. Of course you do. That changes nothing. The Emperor rose from his throne and walked slowly down the steps. Tell me about these humans. Everything. Vernash spoke for nearly an hour. He described their tactics, their weapons, their impossible resilience. He told the Emperor about Maria Santos and her suicide run, about the constant missile barrages that never stopped for 16 days, about pilots who kept fighting even as their ships burned around them. They adapted, Vernash said. That was the most disturbing part. Every time we developed a counter to their tactics, they changed. Within hours, sometimes within minutes. They learned our shield frequencies and concentrated fire on weak points. They developed electronic countermeasures that should have taken years to create. One of their pilots figured out how to jam our targeting systems using nothing but a modified communication device. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. What do you recommend? A larger fleet. 1,000 ships, at minimum. Overwhelming force. We cannot give them time to adapt again. The Emperor nodded slowly. Begin preparations. We will not make the same mistake twice. On Earth, humanity was already working on making sure that mistake would be very costly indeed. The wreckage of Valkyrie ships had fallen across 3 continents. Before the fires were even out, teams of scientists and engineers were swarming over every piece of alien technology they could find. They did not fully understand most of it. The Valkyrie had thousands of years of advancement that humans could not hope to match, but humans were very good at taking things apart and figuring out the useful bits in a secret facility. Beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Amy Hartwell led a team of the world's best physicists. She was small, with messy red hair and glasses that were always sliding down her nose. Before the invasion, she had been working on theoretical physics that most people could not even understand. Now she was working on weapons. The key is their power source, she explained to Danny Cole, who had been promoted to admiral and given command of Earth's rebuilt defense forces. The Valkyrie used something like controlled fusion, but more efficient. We can't replicate it exactly, but we can approximate it. What does that mean in practical terms? It means we can build energy weapons. Not as good as theirs, but good enough. She pulled up a holographic display. We're calling it the X-ray lance. Nuclear-pumped X-ray lasers powered by antimatter reactions. Extremely wasteful by their standards, but devastatingly effective. Danny studied the designs. How long until we can produce these? 6 months for prototypes. A year for mass production. We might not have a year. Then we'll work faster. Across the planet, similar scenes played out. Factories retooled. Universities became research centers. Civilians with useful skills were recruited into the war effort. For the first time in history, humanity was completely united in a single purpose. Maria Santos, now Captain Santos, led the effort to train new pilots. She had become something of a legend after her actions in the first battle. And young recruits looked at her with something like worship. She hated it. I'm not a hero, she told Danny one evening, as they watched new pilots practice maneuvers in the simulator room. I just did what needed to be done. That's exactly what makes you a hero. Heroes are dead people. I'm still here. Then stay here. We need you. She looked at him with tired eyes. They're coming back, aren't they? With more ships? Yes. How many? Intelligence suggests at least 800. Maybe more. Maria was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed, a harsh sound with no humor in it. 800. And we have, what? 50 ships that can actually fight. 63, as of this morning. More coming online every week. Still not enough. No, Danny agreed. Not nearly enough. But we're not going to fight them the same way we did before. We're going to be smarter. He pulled up a tactical display. The Valkyrie expect a straight fight. Fleet against fleet, strength against strength. We're not going to give them that. We're going to use every trick humanity has ever invented. Ambush, traps, guerrilla tactics, psychological warfare. Psychological warfare? Against aliens? Why not? They're intelligent beings. They have fears, just like anyone else. We just need to figure out what those fears are and exploit them. Over the following months, humanity prepared. New ships were built, ugly and brutal compared to the elegant Valkyrie designs. Human engineers did not care about beauty. They cared about effectiveness. Every vessel was a weapon, designed to hurt the enemy as much as possible before being destroyed. The soldiers trained without rest. Ground forces practiced boarding actions in zero gravity. Pilots learned to fly in formations that would look chaotic, but were actually carefully choreographed. Communications specialists developed codes and signals that could not be broken by alien technology. And in hidden laboratories, scientists worked on something special. A secret weapon that might change everything. General Lisa Park oversaw the ground defense preparations. She was a small woman with a calm demeanor that hid a brilliant tactical mind. Under her command, every major city became a fortress. Underground bunkers, hidden weapons platforms, evacuation routes that could move millions of people in hours. If they come for our cities again, they'll find nothing but empty buildings and death traps, she reported to the Unified Command Council. What kind of death traps? Asked Admiral Cole. Lisa smiled. The creative kind. As the months passed, reports came in from across the galaxy. Other species were watching humanity's preparations with growing interest. Some offered secret support, technology, information, safe harbors for human refugees if things went badly. The Galactic Council, a loose organization of species that existed mostly to stay out of the Valkyrie's way, sent a quiet message to Earth. We cannot help you openly, but we wish you luck. If you survive this, the galaxy will remember. Danny Cole read the message and felt something he had not expected. Not hope exactly, but something close to it. They're scared of us, he said to Maria. The whole galaxy is scared of us. Should they be? Maybe. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valkyrie were gathering their fleet. Soon they would come with all their power and fury, expecting to finally crush the annoying primitives who had embarrassed them. They had no idea what was waiting for them. 1 year ago, we were just another species minding our own business, Danny said quietly. Now we're about to fight for the survival of everything we've ever built, everything we've ever dreamed, everything we are. Maria put her hand on his shoulder. Then we'd better not lose. We won't, he said, and for the first time since this all began, he almost believed it. Whatever happens next, they're going to learn what humans are made of. In the darkness of space, the Valkyrie Armada gathered. 800 warships, crewed by warriors who had never known defeat. They believed this would be easy. They believed the humans had simply gotten lucky the first time. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Valkyrie Armada arrived at dawn on a Tuesday. 800 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their crystal hulls gleaming against the black void of space. It was the largest fleet assembled in over a century, commanded by Fleet Admiral Sarkith, a veteran of 40 campaigns who had never lost a battle. He expected to find a broken world, a species that had spent the past year burying its dead and accepting the inevitable. Instead, he found silence. Report, Sarkith commanded. No transmissions from the planet, Admiral. No visible fleet. No orbital defenses. His tactical officers seemed confused. It appears they are hiding. Hiding? From us? Sarkith almost smiled. Then we will find them. Begin systematic scan of the system. Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of debris. They cannot hide forever. The scans began. For 3 hours, the Valkyrie fleet searched the solar system with the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. They found nothing. No ships. No weapons platforms. No hidden bases. Perhaps they truly surrendered, an advisor suggested. Perhaps they realized they cannot win. Sarkith did not believe it. Everything he had read about humans suggested they were incapable of surrender. But where were they? The answer came when his fleet entered what the humans called the asteroid belt. Admiral Danny Cole sat on the bridge of the Relentless, Earth's new flagship. It was not elegant like a Valkyrie vessel. It was brutal and ugly, a wedge of armor and weapons that looked more like a flying brick than a spaceship. But it was fast, it was tough, and it carried enough firepower to make any enemy think twice. "They're in the kill zone," Maria reported from her position at the tactical station. "All ships, execute Operation Hammer." Across the asteroid belt, human vessels emerged from their hiding places. They had been waiting for months, powered down and cold, invisible to Valkyrie sensors. 63 warships, supported by hundreds of smaller attack craft and missile platforms. But the real surprise was not the ships. The asteroids themselves began to move. Human engineers had spent the past year turning hundreds of asteroids into weapons. Massive kinetic projectiles, aimed and launched by hidden engines. Nuclear devices buried in rock and ice. Automated defense platforms that popped out of craters and opened fire. The Valkyrie fleet found itself surrounded by death. "Ambush!" Sarkith shouted. "All ships, defensive formation." But it was too late for formations. The humans had planned this attack for a year. Every detail was calculated. Every angle was covered. The first wave of asteroid projectiles hit the Valkyrie fleet like a hammer striking glass. These were not small missiles that could be stopped by shields. These were chunks of rock the size of buildings, accelerated to incredible speeds. Even Valkyrie shields could not completely absorb that much kinetic energy. "We're losing ships in Sector 4. Sector 7 is under heavy fire. The Crown Glory just lost its engines." Sarkith tried to bring order to the chaos, but the humans were not giving him time to think. The moment his ships adjusted to one threat, a new one appeared. Attack craft darted between asteroids, launching missiles and then disappearing. Railgun platforms fired from hidden positions, their projectiles arriving without warning. And then there was the music. Human ships began broadcasting on Valkyrie communication frequencies. Not demands for surrender. Not tactical chatter. Music. Loud, violent, chaotic music that the humans called heavy metal. Mixed with other sounds. Classical orchestras. Screaming guitars. Drums that pounded like heartbeats. "What is that noise?" demanded Sarkith. "Unknown, Admiral. Some form of psychological attack. Turn it off." "We cannot. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. The only way to stop it is to shut down our communications entirely." The music continued. It was maddening. It was everywhere. And it was doing exactly what the humans intended. It was preventing the Valkyrie from coordinating effectively. It was creating fear and confusion in warriors who had never experienced anything like it. On the Relentless, Danny Cole allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. Phase 2. Send in the boarding teams. Lieutenant Chris Morgan had been waiting for this moment. He was a quiet man with calm eyes and steady hands. Before the invasion, he had been a Special Forces soldier. Now he was something else. something the Valkyrie had never encountered. His team consisted of 12 humans in heavy combat armor. They approached the Valkyrie flagship Throne of Stars in a modified shuttle, hidden among the debris of a destroyed cruiser. Remember, Chris told his team, they've never fought in close quarters. They don't know how. We go in fast, we go in hard, and we don't stop until we reach the bridge. The shuttle punched through the flagship's hull, where a previous attack had weakened the armor. Within seconds, Chris and his team were inside the ship. The Valkyrie were not prepared for what happened next. Chris moved through the corridors like a ghost made of violence. His rifle fired in controlled bursts. His blade cut through alien flesh like paper. Behind him, his team spread out, covering angles and eliminating threats with mechanical precision. The Valkyrie crew tried to fight back. They were larger than humans, stronger, better armed. But they had never trained for this kind of combat. Their weapons were designed for ship-to-ship engagements, not corridor fighting. Their tactics assumed an enemy that would stand and face them, not one that moved through shadows and struck from behind. In 9 minutes, Chris Morgan and his team killed 40 Valkyrie warriors and reached the bridge. Sarkith turned to find a human standing in the doorway, his armor covered in blue blood, his weapon pointed directly at the Admiral's head. "Fleet Admiral Sarkith," Chris said, his voice calm despite the carnage around him. "You are now a prisoner of the United Earth Forces. I suggest you order your fleet to stand down." Sarkith stared at the human. This creature was smaller than any of his warriors, physically weaker, shorter-lived, and yet it had walked through his ship like death itself, killing everything in its path. "Why should I surrender? Your fleet is still outnumbered." Chris smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Look at your tactical display." Sarkith looked. In the past 9 minutes, while Chris had been fighting his way to the bridge, the battle outside had continued. The human fleet had used the distraction perfectly. 17 more Valkyrie ships had been destroyed. Dozens more were damaged. The proud armada was being torn apart. "You've lost over 100 ships already," Chris said. "Your flagship is crippled. Your admiral is my prisoner. Do you really want to see how many more of your people have to die before you accept reality?" For a long moment, Sarkith was silent. He thought about 12,000 years of Valkyrie dominance. He thought about the shame of surrender. He thought about the warriors still fighting and dying outside. And then he did something no Valkyrie commander had ever done in the entire history of the Empire. He surrendered. "All ships," Sarkith announced over the fleet-wide channel, "cease fire and stand down. This is a direct order from your admiral. The battle is over." The silence that followed was like nothing anyone had ever heard. For a moment, neither side moved. Neither side fired. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the cheering started. On every human ship and every bunker on Earth, in every hidden base throughout the solar system, humanity erupted in celebration. They had done it. They had defeated the undefeatable. They had broken the unbreakable. Danny Cole leaned back in his chair and let out a breath he felt like he had been holding for a year. "Admiral," Maria said quietly, "we won." "We did," Danny agreed. "Now comes the hard part." "The hard part?" "We just beat the largest fleet in the galaxy. What could be harder than that?" Danny looked out at the battlefield, at the wreckage of human and Valkyrie ships floating among the asteroids. "Convincing the rest of the galaxy that we're not going to do the same thing to them." Maria considered this. "Are we?" "No, but they don't know that yet. And scared people do stupid things." He stood up and straightened his uniform. "Get me a channel to the Galactic Council. It's time the galaxy met humanity properly." The war was over, but humanity's real challenge was just beginning. The Galactic Council met on a station called the Nexus, a massive structure built at the intersection of 7 major trade routes. For 3,000 years, it had served as neutral ground for the countless species that made up the known galaxy. Wars had been ended here, treaties signed, alliances formed and broken. Today, it was filled with fear. Representatives from over 200 species had gathered in the Great Assembly Hall. The Andari, with their compound eyes and delicate wings. The Koloth, massive creatures covered in natural armor. The Savani, beings of pure energy contained in crystalline shells. Dozens more, each one unique, each one watching the entrance with barely hidden terror. They had all heard the news. The Valkyrie, who had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years, had been defeated. Not just stalked, defeated. Their fleet destroyed. Their admiral captured. Their empire crumbling. And the species that had done this was coming here. We should have prepared defenses, the Andari delegate whispered to his neighbor. Against the species that broke the Valkyrie? What defense could possibly be enough? The doors to the assembly hall opened. Admiral Danny Cole walked in alone. He wore his dress uniform, clean and pressed, the medals on his chest catching the light. He was shorter than most of the aliens in the room, weaker, more fragile. And every single being in the chamber was terrified of him. Danny walked slowly to the speaker's platform, taking his time, letting the assembled delegates study him. He climbed the steps, turned to face the crowd, and smiled. "Distinguished delegates," he began, his voice calm and friendly. "Thank you for allowing me to address this council. I know many of you have questions, concerns, fears." He paused. "I'm here to address all of them." The Andari delegate rose from his seat. "The humans must be contained. If you can defeat the Valkyrie, you can defeat anyone. You are a threat to every species in this galaxy." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Danny nodded slowly. "You're not wrong." The murmurs stopped. That was not the response anyone had expected. "Humans are dangerous," Danny continued. "We are aggressive, unpredictable, and extremely difficult to kill. We evolved on a planet that tried to murder us every single day. Ice ages, predators, diseases, natural disasters. And when nature wasn't trying to kill us, we tried to kill each other. We fought wars over land, resources, religion, and ideas. We invented nuclear weapons before we achieved peace among our own nations." He let that sink in before continuing. "By any reasonable standard, humanity is exactly what you're afraid of. A violent species with a talent for destruction and a refusal to accept defeat. We are, quite possibly, the most dangerous species this galaxy has ever produced." The fear in the room grew thicker. Some delegates looked ready to run. Others seemed to be calculating how quickly they could get weapons into the chamber. Danny raised his hand. "But here's what you need to understand. Everything I just said is true, but it's not the whole truth." He gestured, and a holographic display appeared above the platform. It showed Earth, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across the surface. "This is our home. 8 billion people live there. Families, children, artists and scientists and farmers and teachers. People who have never held a weapon in their lives and never want to. People who just want to live in peace, raise their children, and die of old age surrounded by the people they love." The display shifted to show images of human cities. People walking in parks, children playing in schools, couples holding hands on street corners. The Valkyrie came to our world uninvited. They demanded our surrender. They threatened to destroy us if we refused. We refused anyway, not because we wanted war, not because we enjoy violence. We refused because surrender would have meant slavery for our children and their children forever. Danny's voice hardened slightly. We fought back. We killed their warriors and destroyed their ships. We captured their admirals and broke their empire. And do you know what we did after we won? The assembly was silent, waiting. Nothing. Confusion rippled through the crowd. We went home, Danny explained. We buried our dead. We rebuilt our cities. We hugged our children and told them it was going to be okay. We did not conquer Valkyrie worlds. We did not enslave their people. We did not demand tribute or revenge or anything else. He looked around the room, meeting eyes with as many delegates as he could. In the year between our first battle and the second, we could have built a fleet to rival any in this galaxy. We had the technology. We had the resources. We had the motivation. Instead, we built exactly enough ships to protect ourselves and no more. Because conquest was never our goal. Survival was. The Kolith delegate, a massive creature that could have crushed Danny with one limb, spoke for the first time. Then, what do you want? Why are you here? Friendship. The word hung in the air like something strange and unexpected. Humanity wants what every species wants, Danny said. Safety, prosperity, a future for our children. We don't need to rule the galaxy to have those things. We just need to not be threatened by it. He pulled up another display. Here is our offer. Peace and trade with any species that wants it. Mutual defense agreements with our neighbors. Open borders for commerce and cultural exchange. We will share our technology, our knowledge, our art, and in return, we ask only to be left alone. The Andari delegate was not convinced. And if we decided you were a threat? If this council voted to eliminate humanity before you could expand? Danny's expression did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something cold and ancient and very, very dangerous. Then I would remind you of something. The Valkyrie had 12,000 years of experience. Technology we still don't fully understand. 800 warships crewed by warriors who had never known defeat. He paused. We beat them in less than 2 years. With missiles and rocks and more stubbornness than any species should reasonably possess. He leaned forward slightly. We are not looking for enemies. We are looking for friends. But if you force us to be your enemy, you will discover exactly why the Valkyrie failed. You will learn what happens when you threaten our homes, our families, our children. You will learn why humans have survived everything our universe has thrown at us for 1,000,000 years. His voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. But somehow everyone in the chamber heard every word. We are the species that split the atom and walked on other worlds. We are the species that conquered our planet and then decided to save it. We are the species that fights until the last breath and then keeps fighting anyway. We have been at war since before we could write, and we have never, ever been truly defeated. He straightened up and smiled again. The warmth had returned to his expression, but no one in the room would ever forget what they had seen beneath it. Humanity offers you friendship. Our terms are generous. Our intentions are peaceful. All we ask is that you accept. He glanced around the room one final time, because only a fool refuses friendship from the deadliest species in the galaxy. Admiral. Cole walked out of the chamber without waiting for a response. Maria Santos fell into step beside him as soon as he cleared the doors. Well? She asked. They're voting now. Think they'll take the deal? Yes. Why? Danny smiled. Because they're scared. And scared people make smart decisions when their survival depends on it. Behind them, the Galactic Council voted. It took less than 10 minutes. The result was unanimous. Humanity's offer of friendship was accepted. 300 years later, history would remember this day as the beginning of a new era. The Human Alliance became the most powerful organization in the galaxy, not through conquest, but through cooperation. Species that had been enemies for millennia found peace under human mediation. Worlds that had been isolated for centuries were connected through human trade networks. Technologies that had been hoarded were shared freely under human guidance. Humanity never fired another shot in anger against another species. They did not need to. Everyone remembered the stories. The species that had defeated the undefeatable. The warriors who fought without fear and refused to die. The diplomats who offered friendship with one hand while the other rested on weapons that could destroy worlds. The deadliest species in the galaxy had chosen to be kind. And the galaxy, wisely, chose to accept that kindness with gratitude. Some species still wondered, in quiet moments, what would have happened if the vote had gone differently. If they had chosen war instead of peace. If they had decided to destroy humanity while they still had the chance. Those thoughts never lasted long, because deep down, everyone knew the answer. The humans would have won. They always did, and it was so much better to have them as friends.